My agency does over $31,000 a month, and I've helped students go from zero experience to $19,000, $10,000, and $9,500, all within their first 30 days. And the method behind all this stuff is something that in the agency space, nobody talks about. It's cold calling, and in this video, I'm going to go deep into exactly how to do it. What times to call, what to say when they pick up, how to handle objections, how to book a meeting, and the tonality that separates people who book 2% from the people that book 10%. And if you're trying to sign your first client, this is the fastest way to do it. The first thing that I want to talk about is why I believe cold calling is the fastest client acquisition method for beginners. Most people when they're first starting out are hiding behind cold DMs, cold emails, or even cold SMS when they haven't taken the time to actually learn the skill of talking to a potential client. Believe it or not, the phone actually doesn't have that much competition. Most people really try to avoid cold calling in general. Most of them have watched some sort of YouTube video with some random guru giving them a random script, and they're just kind of copying that script and hoping for the best. If you really want to succeed with cold calling, taking action and putting in those reps and sticking through it is really what's going to get you the results that you're looking for in the agency space in general. The reason I like it so much is because you're actually taking time to understand your prospects very, very well and potential clients. And you're also talking to like business owners and decision makers within companies. That is such a valuable skill to learn, especially when you're first starting out, because the whole game of client acquisition is understanding your prospects to a T. So you actually know what they're struggling with and how you can solve those problems that they're dealing with. And I like cold calling home service businesses because most of the time you're actually talking to a decision maker. And a lot of these companies, these contracting companies that are local, don't actually have some sort of gatekeeper or receptionist. My biggest regret in business was I was pushing off cold calling for way too long, and it actually delayed my growth for months and if not years because I was doing anything but actually cold calling. And it wasn't actually because I was lazy, it was because I had so much resistance towards it. Success in the agency space is all about killing your old self and creating a new version of yourself who can actually achieve the things that you want to achieve. But obviously your subconscious sees that as something that's uncomfortable and something that it doesn't want to do. So your subconscious throws like fear, throws doubt, fake burnout, and it makes you feel productive when you're actually procrastinating, whether that's like building a website or scrolling on social media or watching YouTube videos that you think are going to help you. None of that stuff is actually pushing your business forward. If anything, it's just resistance in disguise. But once you start recognizing that resistance, that means you're actually going in the right direction. The boulder is hard to push at first, but once it's actually rolling, it won't stop. This was the biggest thing that I actually had to fight through myself when I was building towards my 30K months. Next is cold calling is actually building a system. It's not gambling at all. Say for example that you do 200 cold calls and you have a 5% booking rate. That means you book 10 people in for an actual meeting. If 50% of those people show, it means 5 people showed, and you have a close rate of 20% on a $4,000 package, that means that every single dial out of those 200 dials was worth $20. Now, obviously that was a bit of an extreme example, but you kind of get the point that I'm trying to portray. Now, one thing to keep in mind is there's something called regression to the mean. Your numbers day to day won't be super smooth. Some days you're going to have really great days with cold calling, you're going to book a ton of meetings, and other days you might book nobody. Regardless, you want to make your decisions based on data, not based on emotions. So say you had 5 great days of cold calling and then you had 3 terrible ones. Well, you don't want to have your feelings control you and then you go and rewrite all of your scripts and rewrite all of your process and just kind of restructure everything that you're doing. You don't actually want to make changes to anything like your script, for example, unless you do 200 or at least 300 dials. Trust the system that you're building, not your emotions. And the setup with cold calls is actually very, very simple. It's really just 4 tabs and there's nothing else. It's your script, your dialer, your leads, and then your booking link. You don't need to overcomplicate it. There's nothing extra that you need to be doing. You shouldn't be playing Clash of Clans while you're actually cold calling. You want to make sure that what you're actually doing is what you're present on. If your mind's bouncing between a bunch of different things as you're actually dialing, when a prospect finally picks up the phone, you might be a little bit confused and not actually present to understand the pain points of your prospects. It's also very important that you have a metric tracker so you can actually understand how many dials that you made, how many pickups you've gotten, how many pitches you've done, how many resignations, how many bookings that you've done within a certain amount of dials. The pickup to pitch rate should be about 60%, and this will tell you if your opener is working or not. The pitch to resignation should be about 25%. This will tell you if your offer sounds too saturated or similar to other people that are calling them, and your pickup to booking should be about 10%. Tracking all these metrics will actually help you understand what part of your cold calling process is breaking down. The cool part about cold calling also is you can crank out 60 dials manually within high level, or you can set up a power dialer and do about 300 in an hour. The next thing that I want to talk about is a cold call structure and actually designing a high quality script that is catered to you, so that way nobody can copy you and you're unique and people actually want to listen to you. You first need to start out with a pattern interrupt, preferably something that's funny. You got to sound like you know them. Humor actually disarms people and knocks them out of that like monkey-like thinking. If you don't interrupt the pattern, they're just going to blurt out not interested right away and not even hear you out. An example opener is like, hey Jamie, you're going to hate me here. They go like, what are you talking about? And you're like, yeah, no, I'm actually just giving you a cold call today. This works because it sounds familiar, it has humor, and it actually disarms them. They're not hearing some sort of corporate pitch, and it knocks them out of that monkey-like thinking. The moment that they pick up, they're almost just waiting for you to say something dumb enough so that way they can just hang up on you. A good pattern interrupt buys you the first 30 seconds, which is what you need. That's really all it does. And one thing that I want to clarify clarify is always make sure that you're upfront and honest with your opener, because business owners will actually really appreciate that. The next part of the script is actually get permission to pitch, something like, do you have 30 seconds, or is this the worst time to call you today? And when they say yes, they're basically signaling a small amount of interest without actually committing. And it's essentially a small close, and every single small close that you get your prospect over is what leads them to actually buying and working with you. After asking permission, they actually listen to you instead of waiting for you to stop talking. And it also functions as a filter. The people who say no immediately aren't even the people that you want to work with in the first place. And even on the small chance that you actually can get them past that line to actually start working with you, they're probably going to be a terrible client, which will lead you to having a terrible business and probably want to quit. And cold calling is almost like an ad. You're not trying to get everybody, just the ones who are ready. The next part is delivering your pitch. Make it sound new, not better. Chances are these people have heard a lot of guarantees and they've heard pretty much everything in the book. Don't say something like, we're going to get you 100 leads in 90 days or you don't pay. Say something that they actually have not heard. Make sure it's short and also make sure it's visual. They should almost be able to paint a picture in their mind with what you're describing for them. Everybody else that's cold calling these people is trying to be the best. We don't want to be the best. We just want to be different. Being different is what breaks the pattern and keeps these people listening. Sounding sophisticated is what builds authority subconsciously. Make it sound like that's something that they could actually never do themselves, but you don't want to make it too confusing for them to not understand it. We could say something like, we don't just get you leads, we qualify them for you and only actually book in estimates with homeowners that we know actually want to buy your service. And that's something visual for them. You also always want to say something negative before something positive, because this makes your claims seem way more believable. Something like, oh, I'm not going to promise you $3 million every single month, but what we can do is get you consistently a certain amount of X jobs. That lands way harder than some random hype that you're saying or some just lies or crazy offer that you're saying to them. And pre-handle objections inside of the pitch so they never actually bring it up or subconsciously think about it. And what I mean by that is when you say your offer, you then explain away the pain points that they associate that offer with. A lot of the times when you say that you're going to get them qualified in-person estimates or qualified homeowners that are ready to buy their service, they might be thinking, like, oh, what if it's share leads? Oh, what if I have to pay for ad spend, all that stuff? So what we want to say is we want to say the offer, and they say without share leads, without having to spend money on ads, without having to do this. We usually just want 3 pain points, and that way when these people associate that pain with the offer, we immediately explain away that stuff for them. All right, but let's keep moving on. The next thing is pitch the meeting, not the actual service. The goal of the cold call isn't to sell somebody on your $2,000 a month retainer. It's to book in a meeting with these people. So make the call, if it's Google Meet or Zoom, sound valuable. Explain that you're going to share your screen and show the entire process from A to Z on how to actually fix the problem that they're dealing with. You also want to show them live results on that call as well. You also always want to sound busy on these cold calls. You can say something like, oh, I don't have too much time right now, but if you want to hear more about this stuff, we can hop on a quick call tomorrow. Suggest a specific date and time for them. You always kind of want to assume the sale and assume the meeting. Be like something like, oh, let's do tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Does that work? Just make it really easy for them to say yes. You don't want to have to make them think about things and, oh, well, I have to think about my schedule. Just be like, let's do this and this. Does it work for you? Another thing to keep in mind is it's actually really good to do kind of like a push-pull method before actually pitching the Zoom. Once they show interest, you have leverage and you can use it. You want to flip the dynamic and actually start asking them questions before the meeting. Like, oh, how many jobs are you doing per month? Oh, what kind of things are you doing right now to try to grow your business? How are you currently getting leads? This makes them actually earn the meeting instead of you begging for it. Now they're actually more invested and you can tie the meeting to whatever question or objection that they actually have. Make the meeting the spot where they can get that specific question actually answered. And that's very powerful. Now, one thing that you can see is that I'm not having some sort of script to show you guys or giving you word by word framework to follow, is because that's not actually how to succeed with cold calling. Watching an Instagram reel or a YouTube video where somebody's talking about cold calling and they give you an exact script to follow, when you do that, a bunch of other people are doing that and then they go out into the market, they use it, and then you sound like everybody else. Specifically with cold calling and succeeding with them, you want to sound as authentic as physically possible. That's what's actually going to raise your booking rates and give you the success that you're looking for with cold calling. By the way, if you want to learn the exact system that took me from $0 to $31,000 every single month, there's a link for that in the description and it's completely free. Now I want to talk about tonality. It's actually more important how you actually say stuff instead of what you actually say. I have a friend who has a team of cold callers who say the exact same things that he does, but when he actually cold calls, he will still book more than them because he's actually confident. With tonality, you can actually have a bad script, but still book people in. And the same goes for opposite. You could have the perfect script, the best script ever, but if your tonality's off, it's not going to work. And there's actually a few specific tonality shifts that we want to make during our actual call. For the pattern interrupt, we want to be playful, we want to be casual, and almost like you're calling a friend. For the permission to pitch, we want to be respectful and slightly pulling back. And for the pitch itself, we want to be confident, convicted, and almost like this is the best thing that they've ever heard in their entire life. And then for the booking the meeting, we want to be relaxed, we want to be busy, and almost like you're doing them a favor by actually making time. And there's 2 different things that we can do with our tone. We can do a down speaking, and then we can do an up speaking. Ending your sentences with a lower tone makes you sound more convicted. We're going to get you 15 new jobs per month. My tone drops at the end. Up speaking is almost like ending your sentence with a question. It kills your authority subconsciously. As an example, we're going to get you 15 new jobs per month. When you're pitching, you should never be up speaking. But when you're asking questions, you can have that raise in your tone. This is a small shift that your prospects can feel, but they can't actually name it. It's the difference between sounding certain and asking for approval. Energy in your state management is also very important. Every time that you're in a good mood, you're going to book more meetings, and just your mental state overall will directly affect your results. Keep your energy high, hang up on leave every single call with a positive experience, so that way you spiral upwards, not downwards. Every negative interaction that you associate with cold calling will make you more likely to view it more negatively, which will then make you not want to do more calls. Every positive experience reprograms your mind to view it positively. And this is literal subconscious reprogramming. So you want to hang up on those rude prospects as fast as you possibly can, so you don't want to sit in that negative energy. You always want to try to make the prospect's day with your call. Like, how would you act if you were a millionaire and you were just making a few calls for fun? That energy is what specifically books more meetings. And some practical stuff that you could do is just like work in public, work in a coffee shop, play house music while you're calling. Force yourself in a high energy state before dialing. It sounds really weird, but it will actually work. Now that we have all that down, let's talk about handling objections and locking in the actual meeting. The best framework to follow for objections is acknowledge, normalize, address/reframe, and then use that as ammo for the actual meeting. Say, for example, that you get the objection, email me. You could say something like, typically we just book in some Google Meets instead. Emails go back and forth and they get lost. What do you think that was missing in this conversation that you were hoping to look for in an email? Obviously, you just want to wait for their answer. And then you could say something like, what we can do is just hop on a quick Google Meet, and I'll make sure to cover that first. The call is going to be like 10 to 30 minutes. Are you free sometime tomorrow? The whole objection, email me, is almost like a hint at some sort of limiting belief that they have. They might think that marketing companies are a scam, or maybe they've been burned in the past. You'll literally find the real reason they don't want to book with you once you dig into that objection. The next thing is like, how much does it cost? You obviously never want to actually drop the price on a cold call without evaluating the prospect's entire full situation, because you don't actually have enough context to evaluate that. What you could do is you can, instead of talking about the price, flip it to the ROI, the return on investment that that prospect would make when investing with you. Something like, are you worried about the price or the return that you're going to get? Or something like, oh, well, if you 100% believe that you're going to make a return, would you make this investment? An analogy that I like is you're not going to be able to sell an out of shape friend on going to the gym by just telling them if they go, they're going to get fit. You have to make them feel the pain as if they're going to stay where they are first. Now let's talk about actually locking in that booking. You want to book these people in for as soon as you possibly can, like either later today or tomorrow. You don't want to book them out a week from now. The further out the booking is, the lower the show up rate. People just forget. They might not even remember the conversation that they had with you. Confirm their email and their phone number and their name, and send them a calendar invite while you're still talking to them. And then confirm that they actually received that confirmation before hanging up the phone. Never text them your booking link after the call. They're probably not going to book in. They're not going to take the time to do that. So send them a confirmation email or text, paste it into their calendar, confirm that they actually got the invite, and ask them to hit accept before hanging up the phone. You need to do this because it actually creates commitment. They will then subconsciously remember actually accepting that invite. And another good way to increase your show up rate is don't rush off the call after booking them in. Talk for at least 2 more minutes. Ask 2 to 3 questions, build rapport, understand where they're at in their business and the types of pain points that they're actually struggling with. Because everybody, and specifically business owners, have a situation that they want to get out of. They have a certain pain that they're dealing with now that they want to resolve. It's your job to actually understand that and want to help these prospects as much as you possibly can. The cold callers with the highest show up rate percentage are the ones that are actually taking the time to understand their prospects. Regardless, that's pretty much the entire structure of the cold call. I now want to talk about the most important part, which is mindset. And mindset that specifically actually works. Most people have fear around cold calling, and that's totally normal. There's a primal fear of rejection, but that has nothing to do with business. It doesn't matter how bad cold calls go because it doesn't actually change your life. But on the flip side, a good call could change everything for you. You literally have nothing to lose and everything to gain. That fear comes from evolution. Rejection in history meant that you're moving down the social hierarchy, which is going to be a lower likelihood of reproducing, possibly being, kicked out of the tribe. And your subconscious literally cannot tell the difference between a business call rejection and a threat to survive. Once you understand that, that fear literally becomes ridiculous. And a stranger saying not interested on the phone literally cannot change your life at all. There's nothing to lose on a bad call, and there's everything to gain on a good one. And there's kind of 2 main ways to break out of this. The first one is to constantly remind yourself how irrational this is. You could put a sticky note on your computer just so you look at it all the time, or maybe changing your screensaver on your phone. Or 2, just take action ruthlessly and call anyway. The next big thing in mindset is shifting your perception on cold calling from painful to actually something that you want to do. You can either fight your goals or you can flow to it. If your mindset is optimized, you don't even need to be disciplined. So one thing that you can do is you can attach different motivators, right? You're getting better at talking to people. You're understanding your prospects more. Every call, like we've talked about earlier, is literally making you money. You're improving your speaking skills and you're networking with other business owners. Cold calling is literally the path to all of this stuff. You do actually need to be motivated motivated to stay disciplined. Discipline without motivation doesn't last, and most people skip this. Making money is obviously one big motivator, but cold calling has a lot of benefits. You get better at articulating yourself, sales calls, hiring interviews, talking to strangers, and just public speaking in general. One thing that was actually big for me is I used to be very, very shy before actually cold calling, but cold calling completely fixed that. Another thing is if you hate people who cold call you, subconsciously you're going to hate cold calling other people. So shift that belief in yourself first, because everything's reflective. That's how the world works. And always be respectful when you get a cold call yourself. Willpower itself will never beat the subconscious long term. You have to reprogram it. You can't just push through it every single day. Another good thing that you can do is obviously reverse engineer your goals. If your goal is $10,000 a month and your close rate gives you one client per every 200 cold calls, that's only $150 per day for 20 actual working days out of a month. Once you see that math, you stop being emotional about individual calls. You just trust the numbers and everything averages out eventually. Never change your strategy based on emotion, because again, results aren't linear. Regression to the mean is a thing. You might have 5 really, really good calling days and then 3 really bad calling days, but those 3 really bad calling days aren't the days that you switch your script and change everything. You acting emotional, you need to have emotional regulation in the game of business. But that's pretty much everything. The script structure, the tonality, the objections, the mindset. Cold calling is single-handedly the fastest way to sign your first client. It's how I first got started when I built my agency to $31,000 per month. The people who actually pick up the phone are the ones who actually start making money. If you want the exact scripts, the tracking sheet, and the full cold calling system, Simple Scale has literally everything, and it's completely free. The link is in the description. Subscribe if you want more of these. I'll see you guys in the next one.